Okay, and I think that was my signal from Wendy to get started. So welcome everyone tonight. It's great to see each of you here at Together Women's Rise's webinar. I'm Lynn O'Connell, and I'm going to be your moderator throughout this evening. I currently serve as board chair for Together Women Rise, and I'm also in a chapter in Vienna, Virginia. There's my chapter leader, Shelley. Thank you for coming. A couple of quick Zoom instructions. Please keep yourself on mute. And I think we're probably all Zoom experts now, but the mute button's over in the left lower hand corner. And if you click on, see a line in it like I just did. Then also please enter in chat if you haven't done it, where you're from, and if you're new to Together Women Rise or visiting us for the first time tonight in the webinar, we'd love to know that. One more housekeeping thing is you have the option of seeing the speaker or seeing everyone, like I like to do, by clicking up in the right-hand corner. There should be the word view. Click on that and it should say speaker or gallery. Speaker will give you who's speaking at the moment, and then gallery will give you, we have too many people tonight, or not too many, but a good number. So I have 3 screens on my computer tonight of people. At any rate, so let me tell you a little bit again about Together Women Rise for the brand new folks. Together Women Rise is a powerful community of women and allies where our mission is dedicated to achieving global gender equality. We have hundreds of chapters across the country, and members come together around our 3 pillars. 1, we come together to learn about gender equality. 2, we come together to give grants. And 3, we come together to build community with each other, as well as with women around the world. And for those of you new, please visit our website at togetherwomenrise.org for more information and find out how you can get involved. Now, on to what we're here for tonight. Each month, Together Women Rise features a project that addresses one of the many challenges faced by women and girls in low-income countries around the world. We called that our featured grant. And these featured grants that we give each month give us the opportunity to give a grant, one of our pillars, and also to learn about the issue, learn about the culture, learn about the women. Our grants range in the featured grant category between $35,000 to $50,000. And then at this national webinar, we come together and we get to learn more in depth about the country, the challenges, and how the project will help women and girls. So this month, we're partnering with EverFree, and the project takes place in Uganda and in the Philippines. The featured project will help trafficking survivors access vital aftercare and economic empowerment, prevent trafficking and re-trafficking in high-risk communities, address justice sector reform, and build the capacity of legal practitioners for the fair prosecution of trafficking perpetrators. First, Wendy's going to show us a short video about the project, and then I'll introduce our guest speaker.
My name is Charlene. I was trafficked at the age of 23. I experienced labor exploitation in the Middle East. I have never felt as hopeless as I did during that time, but luckily I was rescued by EverFree. I had so much anger. I felt like a failure. I couldn't imagine myself anywhere close to my dreams. But with counseling and over months of care, I was able to work through the trauma that I experienced. As a little girl, I had a dream of becoming a fashion designer. With EverFree's support, I have been able to accomplish this dream. I attended a fashion school and I have now opened my own fashion business, which has enabled me to support myself and my family. Being able to do my dream job is one of my greatest achievements. I am a fashion designer and a fashion teacher. I love my career because it enables me to empower fellow women with skills which sustain them. This gives me purpose. There is nothing more life fulfilling than that. I employ other survivors in my company because I want to give these women the same opportunity that I was granted by EverFree. Being able to offer women who have suffered the same things as I did and see them shine and grow, it has to be the best feeling in the world. I have come to learn that restoration doesn't happen overnight, but needs joint efforts from all of us. It comes through community love and support. When we help one another, when we empower each other, the eve of trafficking will end. In 5 years from now, I see myself continuing to run my successful fashion label. I have started a fashion school, which I hope someday will be one of the leading institutes in my country. Empowering women will contribute towards bringing an end to human trafficking because women are the most vulnerable to this crime within our society. Since women often have to carry many of their family responsibilities, they can easily be victimized because they are desperate to make ends meet. However, if they are empowered with skills that can sustain them towards attaining an income to support their families, this will greatly reduce the chances of falling victim to human trafficking. It makes me happy that I'm able to use my fashion skills to create sustainable freedom. By empowering women, they get to be self-reliant and avoid the risk of trafficking. This gives me hope that one day we can live in a world free of human trafficking.
Wow, that was very impressive. It's hard to follow that, but I'll be quick and introduce one of our highlights for tonight. I'm thrilled to introduce Wendy Dailey, who is head of global philanthropy for EverFree. Wendy's passion for global issues led her to Cambodia in 2005, where she learned about human trafficking. Upon her return, she co-founded International Sanctuary, an organization providing economic empowerment opportunities to survivors. Wendy grew this organization over a decade, working in partnership alongside EverFree. Wendy deserves to be part of a global effort to dismantle human trafficking and ensure survivors are thriving in freedom. Wendy holds a degree from Pepperdine University and is based in Orange County, California. Wendy, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Lynn. It's truly an honor to be here with all of you. I'm just feeling a little emotional. I'm, again, just very full of emotion just watching that story and just being with all of you women. It's been probably over a decade since I first learned about your organization, just hearing about the incredible work that you're doing. And so it's truly remarkable and just such an honor to be a grant recipient now and to share with you all this evening. So thank you so much for your time and just being part of the work that we're doing, honestly, to give this story, Charlene's story, to other women and girls around the world. It's not possible without without the support of funding partners like you. So thank you, thank you. Our work at EverFree is really through 3 pillars, and it's through survivor care, trafficking prevention, and innovation and scale. And we are creating a world free of trafficking where women and girls thrive in freedom. Deep breath. Every day, humans are abused, stripped of dignity and the basic freedoms we all deserve. These girls have a name and a family. They have hopes and dreams. I've been in this effort since 2007, and the world is not making fast enough progress. Last year, this statistic shocked me when I learned there were only 109,000 victims served globally. Globally, that's across the entire effort of all the wonderful efforts, grassroots, NGOs, UN, government efforts. That's less than 1% of victims. There's 40 million victims in the world. As many of you probably know, 75% of those are women and children, women and girls. So we are absolutely dissatisfied at EverFree. It is an unacceptable statistic, and we are on a mission to change that. But at the same time, we know that there are no shortcuts to lasting freedom. Traffickers shatter victims' lives. They rob them of their health, their dignity. And if it's left untouched, the evil thrives for generations and generations, creating cycles of breaking families apart and weakening entire communities. So our mission is to stop this pattern once and for all. Our model is a comprehensive research-based model which frees communities of human trafficking, empowers survivors everywhere to flourish in freedom forever. So sadly, many stories don't end like Charlene's, as you heard in the video. And we have 3 solutions to attack the issue of human trafficking on all fronts, starting with the individual, moving to the community, and then stretching out to the globe. We first support survivors with care, opportunity to heal, to rebuild their lives. The second, we empower communities to end trafficking through the training of frontline responders and communities, starting with our own. In Orange County locally, I've been working recently with the superintendent at schools. We've been doing neighborhood prevention events to ensure that our youth, parents, and those individuals in their lives know the signs. This is preventable. We had dinner with the ambassador of human trafficking globally, who works for the US State Department, and he says it is not inevitable. This can be stopped. Through our partnership with University of California, Irvine, we're empowering survivors, organizations, and funders and policymakers with the data they need to develop and scale the proven models for more effective and more efficient programs. I'm very eager to hear the questions and answers, but I want to share with you before we open it up about Ella's story. And Ella is one of the brave and courageous survivors at EverFree, just like you heard from Charlene in her story. She was just trafficked as a child. She came from a loving family who was struggling financially in Uganda. She was the oldest child, and as many of you have heard stories like this before, she felt an incredible burden and responsibility to help provide for their family. A neighbor approached her and she began pushing her and pressuring her. Oh, there's a job in the city, right? You can make money. You can put rice on the table. And so she snuck out of her home without her parents knowing to be met by 2 men on a motorcycle. She went willingly at first, but unfortunately the situation turned very bad and she was unable to remove herself. They drugged her with chloroform to sedate her. When she came to consciousness, she was in a small dark room surrounded by 9 men who were abusing her. This happened day after day after day, and they would not let her leave even to use the restroom. And eventually her body physically started to shut down. She overheard the traffickers stating that they wanted to kill her. She woke up in another city. She'd been disposed like garbage, laying in a gutter and in a ditch. Some good Samaritan came across her, and the police referred her to EverFree. But how do you even begin to help an individual like this, a young girl, begin to heal? We are seeing the impossible happen. She's an absolute miracle. Every single one of these women should not have survived. Girls should not have survived. But we just start with very specific emergency tangible support. We give them a safe place to stay, right? Food, shelter, water, just the very basics. Some of these girls come in and they are mute from the abuse, nonverbal. They are not communicating. So we give them emergency support and time. We give them medical care, take them to the hospital to ensure their body can begin to heal and get the aid that they need. We have counselors on staff, highly trained, experts, psychologists, counselors who can help her with trauma therapy and legal aid. Ella's family did want to secure a conviction against her trafficker, and they were able to do that. 20 years in prison, and first in the country of Uganda, she received restitution. It's the first ever. We are so, so proud of her and her courage. And I just want to share with you her quote. And Ella says, "Justice is what love looks like in public." Such a powerful story. I mean, the impossible, right, ladies? So I joined the EverFree team after being 15 years in this sector because I knew combating trafficking required a strategic response. And I want to thank you so much for standing with us to bring hope and freedom for these girls and women, that they can flourish in freedom forever, like you saw with Charlene's story. She is mentoring new women, younger girls. She's a business owner. She is exceptional. So I just want to thank you genuinely from the bottom of my heart, and just with on behalf of all of the survivors we serve. We had 595 survivors last quarter alone. Many of them started their own businesses. Many received scholarships, education. But it wouldn't be possible without the support of all of you and the incredible, remarkable work of Together Women Rise. So together we are helping women rise. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I just want to extend an invitation. If this is a cause that is near and dear to your heart and you're looking to get involved even further, please get in touch with me. I'd love to hear how we can make that happen.
Well, Wendy, there are some questions coming in, but as people put more of their questions in the chat, I wonder if you could just talk a little bit about the project that RISE is funding specifically, and
Sure.
how the funds will be used. And in particular, this is a kind of a dual project in that we will, a large portion of the funding is going to your work in Uganda, but there is also some funding that will be applied in the Philippines. Could you share a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So our direct service work with victims is, as a nonprofit, 100% of our work is funded through the generosity of donations. And with our background as an organization is actually created out of a merge of two organizations. So that's where the geographic locations come in. But the comprehensive model is complete when you bring those two together. So Uganda's program specifically starts with the emergency shelters and the care and the mental health counseling, as well as the education. Our work in the Philippines focuses primarily around the economic opportunities. We do have a lot of emergency crisis response because, as we know, with this population, freedom, physical freedom does not necessarily mean freedom. There's a lot of healing that needs to happen. So triggers come up, and we need to intervene and provide that mental health support as they're going through their economic training and counseling and educational support. And so the project that is being funded really is to enhance the collaboration and the comprehensive model to ensure that the best practices of our model is complete and implemented and executed in locations, so that then I mentioned our partnership with University of California, Irvine is able to then be scaled and replicated through this part is our further 3-year vision, but that will be scaled globally to come alongside other efforts and mentor and provide the research-based model that is so effective.
All right. All right, I'll jump into some of these questions. Can you tell us what methods, if any, you use to find and remove these girls and women from the situation they're in?
Absolutely. So the trafficking world globally is pretty close-knit, and it's relatively small. So the collaboration is very, very, very strong globally. So we have partnerships all over the world. It's hard to believe that women from Uganda are trafficked to China, but they are. Many all over the world are trafficked in various places, Philippines to the Middle East and whatnot. So we have referral partners. And so many women, both in the Philippines as well as Uganda, are referred through our referral partners. So that comes from law enforcement. It comes from other NGOs, other nonprofit organizations. And so immediately upon on referral, we start doing an assessment to provide the necessary support to ensure that they are receiving the best care that they need. Typically they are received by EverFree, but there are times where there may be another service provider in a different region of the country that is closer to their family of origin that may not be part of the transaction of her trafficking situation. And so therefore she's placed in one of our partner organizations. Does that answer that question comprehensively?
Yeah, I think that you've, if I get it correctly, mainly you get referrals. You're not
a rescue,
right?
No, we are not a rescue, and we don't advise that. We leave that to law. It's primarily the most effective way if you can work with local law enforcement to ensure that victims are identified, cases are being built, all the facts of the case are being compiled so that justice can be done, like we've seen in Ella's situation.
Absolutely. Sounds like you did that very well with your partners. So here's a question about the funding for this type of work. What is the most common mistake made by funders in this area of human trafficking and preventing human trafficking? And what do you think are the strategies that are most effective in terms of funding?
Wow, that is a wonderful question. And in all these years, I don't think I've ever been asked it. And it's so humble. I love it.
Well, I'll just tell you that question was posed by a former grant selection committee member. So she's on the ball, let me tell you.
Clearly. You know, I would say the misconception is that rescue is enough. Rescue is enough. And unfortunately, it's not. And even as an industry, we have learned so much over the years. And unfortunately, rescue is a moment. And what we've seen in the industry is, right, those cycles, I mentioned it, the re-exploitation of generations, they fall right back into the traps that because they don't have the support they need to thrive in freedom. But there was two parts. I'm sorry, I don't have the chat open. Can you rephrase?
It was about the common mistakes. And I think, you answered that often funding will stop at the rescue and that can't be at all. And what strategies do you think are the most effective?
The strategies that are most effective are partnerships and collaboration. We have globally, right? And that's also what led me to this organization, is through the strong partnerships and the collaboration. And there is not one organization that can do it all. There's not one sector of society that can do it all. We have to have a comprehensive global strategy. And we've seen incredible progress, but I think especially from a funding perspective, when those partnerships are strong and each partner can bring their expertise, whether they're an employment partner, whether they're providing the shelter or the prosecutions or the prevention. That's what it's going to take. So
yeah, that's very well said. So clearly the women that you're working with and that have been rescued, referred to you, they've obviously experienced extreme trauma, PTSD. And the question is sort of about relating to the fact that it's not a short-term investment to help these women heal and get their lives back. How do you keep in touch with these women and ensure that there isn't, re-trafficking or?
Excellent question. It's really through community. right? It's through relationships. I mean, we have such a strong community here at Together Women Rise. And, that's what really makes girls vulnerable as well, is when they don't have those strong relationships, individuals speaking into their lives, helping them make healthy choices and decisions. And so as they come into EverFree, and as they're surrounded with a community of not just survivors, but the staff, as well as the partner organizations that we're working with, they belong, and they're known. And they're known by name, by who they are, and they're able to take the time they need to heal. And this is not overnight, right? This is not a matter of a six weeks program or 6 month shelter. I mean, it's years of healing. But as they receive the support, and as they have the tools, and as they're equipped to then become independent, they can then speak back into other girls' lives. And right, I mean, we have incredible women now that have carried on and are thriving. And so it's really through the relationships of the community that they have. Not that they're known as a victim, not that they're known as, oh, I'm receiving services from my case manager, but it's through genuine relationships and friendships that help them to go on into their future.
Wendy, I am so glad we're recording this session, because my job is to watch the chat and pose the questions, but I'm also wanting to jot down so many of these things that you say, comments like they belong and they're known. And it's just very, very inspiring to hear you talk about this. Can you tell us how COVID impacted, the pandemic impacted the numbers of trafficked women and girls, and how it affected your ability to provide the services that they needed for healing?
It was very challenging, and we're still feeling the effects. I believe recently there was a stat that came out that said trafficking has risen 400% because of it. So how do I even begin to answer that question? Globally, it was very difficult. I'll just speak to our organization specifically. I mean, especially in the developing world, is all you women are so informed and have a real pulse on what's taking place globally. But the food shortages, the food crisis, I mean, we went into everything was emergency response, because it wasn't only just the referrals, but it was the survivors and the women that we've been working with. So many of them lost jobs, right? And they fell back into their vulnerabilities because of just the sheer nature of where the world was at that time, and needing to be able to just provide for themselves, their family, their children. It was a very, very intense time. Thankfully, we made it through. And our programs are strong and thriving now, but it definitely was a shift in how we needed to respond. So, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a story we've heard from a lot of our partner organizations about the impact of COVID. I want to ask you a little bit about, there's been several questions about what sort of happens after the treatment. Do the girls go back to their parents, their family, their community, or do they try to live independently? I know you have economic empowerment programs. What sort of happens, after?
It just depends. It's there. Though our program is comprehensive, and it is incredibly strong as far as addressing the various needs, it is not a one size fits all. It's not a formula of, okay, you're going to do this for 3 months and then this for 6 months. Each situation is slightly different depending on how many years they were trafficked, how many, some thankfully are rescued pretty quickly. Some, and quickly, I'm talking about a matter of months, not years. So it really just depends on, are they, a child, what age are they, the level of the trauma. Again, were they sold by a family member? Do they have family to go back to? So it really depends on their individual situation, but we provide them the support they need to then we have case managers, social workers that walk with them through an individualized development plan to set goals, to achieve those goals. It gives them the agency to the survivors themselves. It's not someone else dictating, okay, this is where you need to be, but really a self-assessment for them to determine what their healing is at their rate. As you saw with Charlene, it was her dream to become a designer, a fashion designer, and she's doing it.
And she's awesome too.
Oh, I know. I'm like, can I please
doing
have
in the
that
video?
Yes. So it's each girl is different. Each woman is different. Yeah.
You talked a little bit about your vision of, scaling this. How many countries do you work in now?
Well, specifically for direct services, we are in Uganda and the Philippines. We have our research and innovation and prevention work specifically in North America and the United States. Our scale strategy and replication is really to come alongside other organizations and give them the tools that they need to enhance the work that they're already doing.
Okay.
So we have worked since we've worked in a number of, I think probably 6 different countries. We've been working in Belize over the past year to come alongside an organization there. We also are working with another organization that helped open a shelter in northern Uganda, where it's highly prevalent. And so it's really around coming alongside other organizations that don't have the resources. There's one in Kenya that had 75 victims and 2 staff members. I mean, so it's real. We're not looking at replicating, as far as EverFree in these multiple countries, but really helping to enhance the work that's already been done so we can accelerate that other efforts. That's
fantastic. Can you tell us a little bit more about the preventative work you do in Uganda?
Sure. We go out primarily into the various communities and educate the vulnerable. And so many of it is some of our staff, as well as our survivors that have been more stable, that are further along, taking on leadership, but they go into villages and various areas and communities where they're able to educate families so that even with Ella's story, that they're aware, that the youth are aware, that the parents are aware that there isn't that job in the city. That so much of it, as I mentioned with the ambassador saying, this is not inevitable, it's preventable. So we just start there, and we're doing a lot locally as well, as I mentioned, with communities here.
Okay. Yes, that was someone was asking about whether or not you work with here in the United States with any girls who have been trafficked.
Yes, we just actually filmed a survivor. Is this inappropriate? Can I can share out some further information after this about an art tour we're doing. It's a survivor she's an incredible artist. She was actually trafficked between the ages of 4 and 8 in Colorado. And she is now an artist who is healed and thriving and just married with 2 children, and such a powerful story. So we are coming alongside her to help her accomplish some of her dreams of exhibiting. And so we'd love to invite all of you to that nationwide tour.
Yes, and certainly I'm going to ask one more question that I think the rest of them are comments, but if you want to, after we're finished, reply in the chat to any of the other comments or similar type questions that are in there, please feel free. If you want to share other links, please do so. But the last question that I have up here, I think, is about whether or not the war in Ukraine and has had any impact at all in terms of, we hear a lot about food insecurity issues. Yes. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. It is a huge concern, and we are watching it closely as far as some of the effects. I think we are internally just preparing for what's to come, but we are fully aware of just how that is going to affect things globally. And we know, as I mentioned, with trafficking rising 400%, as well as just food shortages, that we are going to have to enhance our program to respond in a way that meets some of those very specific and tangible needs.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Wendy, thank you so much. And please do feel free to respond further in the chat if you're able to. I also direct people to both our website and to your website for additional information on this project. Lynn, I will turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much. It's an honor.
Thank you, Wendy. And thank you, Wendy. I don't often get to say that. I enjoyed that. Really, no, sincerely, it was very fascinating and very informative. I did see a question in the chat about how did they get the opening video. Keep in mind, this is being recorded, so you can, and you'll all be able to access it on the togetherwomenrise.org website very shortly. Now, I have an exciting announcement. Thanks to the generous support of each of you and all of our other members and donors, the Together Women Rise board has awarded an additional featured grant this year, and that grant has gone to Self-Help International in Ghana. The project is a multi-pronged nutrition, agricultural, and microcredit intervention that targets new and expectant mothers. The goal is to help them build a more healthy and equitable future for themselves and their children. And it's all because, again, of your generous donations and commitment to global gender equality that we were able, for the first time ever, to give an extra featured grant. So it's a pretty neat thing, particularly coming out of COVID like this. As we know, the girls and women need us now more than ever as we work toward equality. So I personally, as board chair, thank each one of you and everyone in each of your chapters for your work, and particularly the GSC as well for their efforts. So here tonight to tell us more about the project we are funding with Self-Help International is Nora Tobin, their executive director. Nora joined Self-Help as executive director in January 2014 after earning a master's in international peace studies from Trinity College in Dublin. Originally from Clive, Iowa, she earned a BA in political science and international studies from Iowa State University. Nora is a recipient of the Des Moines Business Records 40 Under 40 Award and the Iowa State University Outstanding Young Alumni Award. Nora's previous work focused on food security and youth development with the World Food Prize Foundation in Des Moines, promoting public health and community development at the Office for Institutional HIV Prevention in Stellenbosch, South Africa, and administering international exchange programs between universities in the United States and Africa, and she was based in Washington, D.C. Nora served as a Rotary Foundation ambassadorial scholar in Dublin, Ireland, where her research focused on the impact of tourism on economic development in post-conflict areas. Welcome, Nora.
Thank you so much, Lynn. It's truly an honor to be here with you. Well, I think I get the opportunity today to tell you about what all you are making possible with this additional grant. And I just can't thank you enough for this opportunity. I'm going to take a moment to do a screen share here. Can you see that okay, Lynn? If you're not, I'll be able to see it. Perfect. Okay. So what we get to do together is empower women and girls through a program called Growing Healthy Food and Growing Healthy Children. And I have on the call today, one of our board advisors, Dr. Mary Jane Oakland, joined us, who was key in designing this program. So it's an honor that she's here with us. Our organization, Self-Help International, is focused on alleviating hunger by helping people help themselves. And we take a multi-pronged approach to doing so. Really at the core, we're focused on holistic, sustainable community development. And that looks like locally led teams of skilled professionals who collaborate with partner communities, particularly in rural communities, to improve quality of life with dignity. And our program model really focuses on combining training with the resources to put that training into action. So if you think of that old adage, if you give a man a fish, he eats for a day. If you teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. We know that you need access to a fishing net or a fishing pole. There's resource needs there. And if you're working with the woman, the entire family is the one who benefits. So our organization's been around since 1959. We've been building our team in Ghana since 1989 and also have a team in Nicaragua since 1999. In the project today, I get to tell you about that you are funding is the Growing Healthy Food, Growing Healthy Children program in Ghana in West Africa. And here's one of the healthy kiddos with her grandma who has participated in the program. In Ghana, about 1 in 4 children under the age of 5 is stunted due to malnutrition. So as an organization, we partner with moms and families to provide education and resources to empower women, improve nutrition in the first 1,000 days, and secure the nutritional and economic status for the community as a whole. We recognize that infants aren't born in a silo, they're born into a community. And what we saw was that our programming was working primarily through school feeding programs. And by the age of 5 years old, we're already behind on that growth trajectory. And so in the last couple of years, we focused more on how do we work with families, particularly in that first 1,000 days, to really set children up to be able to learn and earn long-term. If anybody's interested in learning more about that, I don't know if you can see this book. It's The First 1,000 Days by Roger Thoreau is a great resource. The First 1,000 Days by Roger Thoreau, and it actually includes case studies from Uganda to tie into Wendy's earlier presentation. So no matter where in the world a child is born, to prevent stunting, which prevents the child from growing a healthy brain and a healthy body, there are 3 things that need to happen. Calorie and protein requirements must be met during that prenatal development, in the first 6 months of breastfeeding, and during the weaning process up to 24 months. Nutritional health is crucial during pregnancy and lactation, and particularly in communities where water isn't safe to drink, that exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months is really crucial. And so this miraculous thing happened in that I was with Dr. Oakland in Ghana, and we were meeting with a friend of hers, a former colleague at Iowa State University, who's now at the University of Legon. We were talking about the research that she was working on, and she shared with us that she had just completed a study that found that integrated agricultural interventions that increase access to high quality foods, women's income generating activities, and women's nutrition knowledge can improve child dietary diversity and prevalence of underweight children. And that's huge for us because we looked at each other and said, we're already working on nutrition. We've got incredible nutritionists on our team. We've got agricultural extension officers who are doing great work. And we've got a skilled team of women that are empowering women and girls. And what if we took that one step further and focused on the first 1,000 days? And so we started a pilot program to do just that. And the 3 pillars of this program are empowering women through community building, education, and loans, providing education on nutrition and facilitating access to nutritious foods, and then supplying long-term community food security, supporting long-term community food security by providing training, education, and access to agricultural techniques, crops, and livestock. So really making sure that mom can feed baby not just today, but long-term and the next child thereafter. Actually, I want to show you this picture because this always makes me laugh. There's a little kiddo that had just eaten a hard-boiled egg, and there was a myth in her community. And so we've got incredible social workers that we work with who sensitize moms to the importance of nutrition and opportunities to be able to access animal source protein in particular. So this is a weaning kiddo who her mom asked if she could share the hard-boiled egg with her, and kiddo said, mom, I'm eating it all, and shoved it all in her mouth. So mom's laughing after that. But it was really exciting to see that in a community where largely children were not consuming eggs and really didn't have access to animal source protein, now they are, and that's the power of social change in the community. Now, this is a huge slide. Don't be overwhelmed by it, but I know some people are visual learners, so I wanted to be able to walk you through what does it actually look like in the journey of a mom who's working with this program. And so a woman discovers that she's pregnant. and request to participate in the Growing Healthy Food, Growing Healthy Children program. Now, the program is available to any expectant mother in the target communities. The reason is that we really want to make sure that all children are supported, regardless of the economic status of the family, and also women helping women and coming together and learning together really makes a difference in that social fabric. It's important that this is not a program just for poor people. It's a program that is available to anyone who chooses to participate of any age. So a staff member from Self-Help, typically a nutritionist, would visit her at her home to assess her health, nutrition, and household food security in the environment. It's not always something that people are entirely forthcoming about. And so by having that personal one-on-one interaction creates a space that's safe for mom to share what's happening in her life in her home, and to assess how are the different ways that our interventions might be able to support her in particular with where she's at. So mom starts attending regular health and nutrition seminars that are held every month in the community. And then she starts receiving a supplement of protein-rich porridge and boiled eggs to ensure that she's getting the proper nutrients to support herself, her body, and her growing baby. And so that's really crucial to make sure that it's the high protein, and all of that is made from locally available and locally grown foods. And that's really crucial to make sure that it's culturally appropriate and also that it's accessible for mom long term. So then come in our women's empowerment team, our financial specialists on the microcredit team, and the agricultural specialists. And they work together to support mom to find out some way that she can increase her economic livelihood or access to nutrition and dietary diversity. And that might look like starting a poultry business. It might look like just household poultry that's not a full-scale business, but enough for household consumption. But the focus is really to be able to add protein to the diets. Now, not every woman is going to want to go into a poultry business, but making sure there's enough access to eggs in the community and meat in the community for any mom who wants to be able to nourish her child in that way. So moms and dads and other family members are invited to participate in cultivating a community garden as well that grows those ingredients that go into the porridge. Once baby makes his or her entrance, mom and baby continue to attend those monthly training sessions, and she's paired with a former member, a graduate of the program, who acts as a lactation consultant and supports her. She continues to go through monthly trainings in a group of other women with children a similar age, and baby's weight and the height is tracked on a monthly basis. It's length initially and then switches to height. The baby's weaned off exclusive breast milk and starts introducing complementary feeding. And in particular, we're supporting growing biofortified orange flesh sweet potatoes. So sweet potatoes would be common in Ghana already, but by promoting these orange flesh sweet potatoes, they're getting more vitamin A into the diet, which is really important for baby's growing body. And then that program continues and that support continues up to the age of 2 years old. And the goal is that mom is able to have some source of income generation so that she can provide support for her family long term. So this is, it incorporates short-term interventions as well as long-term behavior change. There's an image here of mom cultivating sweet potatoes and also some of the food demonstrations, recipe demonstrations, so kiddos get to taste the orange flesh sweet potato and see for themselves if they like it. I really want to share just one example of one woman in the program, Jamilatu. She's here with her twin infants. And if you can imagine, you've already got 2 children at home and you're expecting a third. And to get to the health center is a really long walk on a really bad road. So it's about 10 miles away, and that's most of your day to get there and to get back when you're expecting. Transportation just doesn't really exist in the community. And so it's a big barrier to get prenatal care and to be able to go and access the health services that are available. Initially, Jamilatu wasn't planning to do that because she's already had a couple of kids. She knows what to expect. Thank goodness she did, because she found out that she had not 1, but 2 more on the way. So she starts participating in this program. And at some point, her husband says to her, "What are you doing? How are you spending your time?" And she said, "Well, come along." And so he came along to one of the trainings, and it just so happened that that day the training was on financial literacy and saving for your family and your children. And he went home and explained to her how important savings was for their family. And so he opened up a savings account, and they talked about their family finances and how they can support that and make sure that they have those conversations to support one another as they grow their family together. And so those are the types of examples of how this leads to the long-term change and really not just healthy children, but also financially stable families, to make sure that there's food security, not just today, but long-term. What you are doing with this grant today is extending this program from 2 villages into a 3rd village to serve an additional estimated 80 women with the knowledge and resources to build a healthy and sustainable foundation for herself and her children. It will also support the implementation of key projects in 2 partner communities based on feedback that we're getting from those partners, to support community-based lactation coaches for new moms and the expansion of the vegetable plots. It turns out that if you teach a mom about exclusive breastfeeding and she goes home and grandma says, that's not how we do it, it's not far enough. That social pressure has to be addressed as well. So really working with grandmothers and lactation coaches as well in that project. So we can't thank you enough for making this all possible. It's an honor to be here, and I'd love to hear your questions, but thank you so much.
So my first question, Nora, is how did you react when you got this news, knowing that you had applied, that 12 grantees had already been selected by RISE, and then tell us about it.
Oh my gosh, I was in Ghana for the first time since COVID hit. I typically get to go at least twice a year to work with our staff. So it was the first time I was back there, and Vina was
Vina Conte, our Director of Grants and Partnerships, yes.
She said we need to talk, and she didn't tell us what it was about. So myself and my colleague Jessica are thinking, how are we going to fit this in the schedule with the time zone? And she was super flexible with us, and we were able to figure out a time to Zoom in between our meetings in Ghana. And she said, well, I'm sorry to tell you that your grant application is no longer being considered because it has been funded already. And we were just beside ourselves. We've been really excited about partnering with Together Women Rise for several years and being able to scale up this program. And so truly it just felt like the perfect timing to be able to come out of COVID and be able to enter a new community where we already have strong relationships and actually say yes. So it was exciting to be with my colleagues in Ghana who are actually implementing the programming and be able to share that with them right away. So yeah,
that's awesome, because you were already applying for like the next year's grants, right? So you know, hoping maybe for the next time. Well, we're thrilled that we were able to give you that wonderful news. I'm sure that it was exciting for you. I know it was exciting for Vina too to give it to you. So a couple of questions. So you are, giving mom the nutrition she needs, but what about the providing food for her existing children? Are they able to get enough food as well?
It's really hard because the fact is that mom needs additional nutrition beyond what she's getting and what mother is going to eat herself before she feeds her other children. So that's been something that we've really struggled with figuring out how do we make sure that we're supporting moms today, knowing that when she goes home, she's got the entire family to feed. And yet we just, quite frankly, are not in a position of providing handout food to all of the community at that scale. And so that's why it's really crucial that we're working with agricultural specialists. So when we're working in a new community, we actually lead with the agricultural interventions to build up those supplies in the community and build up access to nutritious foods. And then the Empowering Women and Girls team comes in to start building up businesses and working with women on financial literacy, accessing microloans. And then the third tier is this Healthy Food, Healthy Children program that brings it all together. We learned that if you start off with the supplements, it's really hard to wean people off of them. And it also can undercut some of those long-term efforts. And so we start first with agriculture, then with financial literacy, and then bring in the nutritional element.
Makes a lot of sense. Everything goes together. So it sounds like you're you have promoted the story about the little child who put the whole egg in in her mouth, or that you've promoted the eating of eggs as a source of nutrition. It sounds also like maybe that wasn't part of their typical part of their diet. And this one individual is wondering what cultural barriers might there have been to eating eggs?
Yeah, so there's a pretty common myth that if a child eats an egg, that child will grow up to be a bank robber. And so we are raising,
can you say that again?
A bank robber.
A bank robber.
Bank robber. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so we might be raising a village of really well-nourished bank robbers. It's yet to be seen. But so far, they are more nourished than they were before. And I got to tell you that, like, honestly, the way that it worked is that we were already working with the communities on the school feeding program that targets kindergarten and first graders. And so we were tracking the health status of those kiddos and saw that stunting was really prevalent. And through that process of sharing with the moms what was happening and having that community meeting together, we met with the village chiefs, the moms, the dads, the PTA, and just shared what the data were showing and said, you know, we'd like to work with you on shifting this. And is that something you'd like to do? And they said yes, that they would. And so it really relies first and foremost on trust that our staff are building with the community members and the participants to take that first step and that leap of saying, okay, this is different to what I've ever done to raise my other children. This is different to what anybody in our community has done. And they try it out and see, and it's working, but it takes a while. I mean, you can't tell people that they're not doing something right. You got to just show what the opportunities are and let people make their own decisions about what's right for their families.
That's awesome. All right. I don't see any further questions at this point. I think people are maybe just learning about this. We do have a page for Self-Help International on our website, so please go to that. And Lynn, I'll turn it back over to you for our wrap up.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Nora. And thank you to each of you for helping support this grant to make it possible. Please let your chapter members know thank you as well. Just a couple things to wrap up on. First, of course, I want to remind you that if you are not contributing to Together Women Rise, please go to our website, togetherwomenrise.org. You can make a one-time donation, or you can start giving monthly through your bank account or with your credit card. We also accept gifts of stock and charitable annuities and from donor-advised funds. Upcoming events. We are thrilled that on Thursday, September 15th at 8 p.m. Eastern, we'll be featuring the book. And here is the book, Between the Mountain and the Sky, A Mother's Story of Love, Loss, Healing, and Hope. This is the book by Maggie Doyne of Blink Now Foundation. She's been a favorite of many of us at Together Women Rise for a number of years now. I admit I have the book. I haven't read it. I ran into one of our chapter members on Wednesday night, though, and she told me she read it in 2 nights. She had never heard of Maggie Doyne or the book, but she was just really thrilled with it. Next, our advocacy webinar is Tuesday, September 20th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And then our October national webinar will be Thursday, October 6th at 8 p.m. Eastern. Remember, too, that October is Bring Your Daughter to Rise Month as a way to introduce different generations to our community and our mission. Bring your daughters, your granddaughters, your nieces, your aunts, any family members or friends to any of the October events. Then finally, be sure to check our website for other information on these programs and additional things. And simply go to togetherwomenrise.org and click on Join Us to learn what we have. And we are 1 minute over, but not bad, I guess. Thank you, and everyone have a wonderful evening.